Alright guys, TacticalRab again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. One of the big questions after the World Championship was, is Karma going to stay around with the OpTic Texas guys and coach them going into next year? Some rumours emerging last night that Karma's going to be gone, dipping out of there, no longer coaching the team. But Karma says no, that rumour has come out of absolutely nowhere, and his plan is 100% to stay coaching OpTic from the start of next season and see where that can take them. Very much enjoyed to hear your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. Thought this is pretty funny as well here from Cruz, who managed to find this clip of Jimbo from a while ago now, who gets this one kill with the sniper rifle. Okay, it was going as low as the time, and then just wallbangs this guy straight through the door before then finding the third as well, and was like, yeah, somehow this guy did this in a cup and nobody PC checked him at the time, and now he's been caught for cheating, and the rest is history, as we saw a couple of days ago. Thought this was kind of interesting as well. We don't have any additional update on the G2 version 1 kind of potential merger. I believe there's been a few organizations in discussion here with version 1, because as an organization, if you were to partner with an organization in this league, Minnesota Rokkr and version 1 would be a very attractive one, because I believe at version 1 they've also got the Valorant stuff they do, they've also got the Rocket League stuff they do, and I don't believe version 1 anymore have like a men's Valorant team. I think they've still got the female Valorant team, but G2 have a men's Valorant team, so potentially the partnership there actually works quite well, and a return for G2 and COD would be very exciting. They've been out of the league since 2019, right? I think Methods was on the G2 team that happened at the start of 2019, but they failed to make it through the last chance qualifier, or the Pro League qualifier, sorry, because they lost to Heretics, I think it was at the time. Since then, they've been gone from Call of Duty. Would be cool to have them back. Would also mention real quick, there's been some, interesting mixed reviews on XDefiant over the last couple of days. I think people have to get used to the fact that it's not quite COD, but it is quite fun, and it is a first-person shooter. And I was just watching this from Scump here when he drops 100 kills, and I think he's got the MP7 in hand here, as he absolutely smokes this poor guy. He can't shoot him to save his life, unfortunately. He also pops the active camo as well, which is kind of interesting and kind of exciting. But yeah, XDefiant looks pretty good. I know that the full release is going to be coming at some point. People have been having a good time with it, and I think even Enable made a comment to the effect of, maybe with XDefiant as it is, he's going to be looking for his, third multi-FPS championship, because there's only a few players that have won in Halo and COD. There's a couple for sure, Formal, Enable, Shotzzy being the example, stuff like this, but to do it in a third esport would be pretty interesting, right, would it not? If it's possible for, someone to potentially make a return. So I don't know what's going to happen, but I imagine that they'll make some attempt at some point to have some competitive scene here for XDefiant, but it's probably not going to be happening immediately. Did want to look as well here at some of the numbers from this past season. This might well be the best statistical performance we've ever seen in a season from one player, and certainly in the CDL era. I know people were comparing this to Simp's performance in Cold War. We'll get to that in a second, but HyDra got a 98 overall season card. This is, I'm pretty sure, the highest ever rating we've seen over the entire season by quite a way. Now, the way the ratings work, just to clarify, is all the players in their role get ranked from first to last in all the different categories. Kills per 10, hill time per 10, damage per 10, etc, through the different game modes. And if you're number one in your role, so I think it's just SMG AR, then you get 99 overall. So HyDra's number one kills per 10 in hardpoint, number one damage per 10 in hardpoint for an SMG, so that means he gets a 99 purple in that category, and he has that a lot for, both hardpoint and control. That is the case. Then you get a rating based on that from 50 to 99. For example, the hill time, he's basically the worst, so he gets a 53, but when you go to calculate the ratings, you exclude the worst rating from each particular game mode, because, like, if you're getting all the kills and damage, who really cares about the hill time, right? And potentially the other way around as well. If you're really good in the hill and you're getting decent kills, then who cares about if your damage is low? For example, so HyDra's rating in hardpoint is a 99, and HyDra's rating in search is a 97. HyDra's rating in control is a 99 again, and that totals out to, average it out, pretty much a 99, but they've gone with a 98, which is just absurd. And if you compare this is Simp's card from Cold War, the other theoretical best season performance so far. He had a 1.13 in hardpoint, 1.11 in search, 1.25 in control. The 99 overall was there in the control damage per 10 in that role, but this was only with the same calculations, I believe, for a 93 overall. I say only a 93 overall, right? But this was, I think, considered up until this point probably the best individual season that a player has had in the CDL, and the numbers are actually a little bit inferior to what HyDra has done this season. And you've also got to consider, right, like, Simp is spawning in with aBeZy and Cellium on his team. HyDra's spawning in with great players, role players, but no superstar talent. So I just think what HyDra's done this season has been absolutely immense, and is a superstar of today, and a superstar of the future, and I wonder where he's going to finish like all-time player rankings, because he is stacking up the tournament wins right now, and he's stacking up the grand final appearances. He's been in half of the last 10 grand finals, and he's won 4 of them, so very impressive stuff. These are Huke's numbers, for example. Okay, Huke had a solid season, did a good job for OpTic, but compared to the level of the SMGs that we've just seen, isn't quite on that level, and we know, right, that Karma, even when Huke joined the team, he wasn't super impressed with Huke. I mean, I think even Karma made the comments a couple of months ago now that even if OpTic were to have won champs, they should still drop Huke for Pred. Now, they might not even get Pred, and I do wonder how much Karma has a decision to be made about this. And also, I did mention this graphic yesterday, or this tweet from Brian Tat, so I didn't really talk about it. The Dashy had a negative KD at champs. I believe he had a 1-0 flat at Major 5, and that was his first negative KD in 23 events, which is remarkable in a way, right? First negative KD on LAN since Anaheim 2018, 23 straight tournaments. I believe the all-time record is Scump with about 45, 50 tournaments in a row with a 1+ KD, which is absolutely ridiculous. But it's interesting, right? You can say this is incredible for Dashy to drop these numbers for this long, or you can say, well, it didn't really matter at Champs 2023, the guy didn't deliver as much as you might have expected him to. And Dashy was involved in a lot of drama at the start of the season, right? Especially with the whole Rambo thing. Rambo then gets gone, and clearly they get on better with Karma as a coach, but fundamentally, since Karma joined the team, they didn't have the greatest results. I don't think you can really pin that on Karma, but I know that Karma came in saying, well, I don't want to disrupt their flow or anything. I think fundamentally, they were in a position where the results that they got with Karma as the coach, I think they would have got without Karma as the coach, to be honest. I definitely think he can be a valuable asset for these guys, but there was a rumor emerging last night from Intel OpTic, who could well be, and probably is, completely making this up or getting this from somewhere that has no actual validity, because, well, they go on to say, hearing Coach Karma might have had quite a short career in coaching, most likely due to his own personal decision, not 100% on that. If it's true, then it's a shame, as could have been a historic story for DB3 to also become the greatest coach. So this implies that Karma's done. He's like, you know, I've had enough of this, I'm out of here. But then people were like, well, actually, this doesn't make much sense, does it? Let's be honest, because if he didn't want to coach, why join them in the first place? I know, yeah, he's got another child on the way, but as Ronnie says, like, pointless doing this in some respect if he's not going to coach for the long term. And clearly with his conversations with the team, with Hector and stuff like this, he wanted to do it, he was committed to doing so, and then people started asking Karma, because, you know, he was streaming, and even recently on Scump's watch party, he's talked about looking forward to next season, coaching from the start, figuring out the strats, because Karma, like, even if Karma was still playing, I'm pretty sure that Karma would be a top 10 player in the game for the first few months of the season, because Karma, for some reason, whenever a new game comes out, he's always just incredible at it. Whenever he plays the opening season tournaments, like, Karma's always one of the best players in those lobbies. He's the one that everyone wants to play with, and he's always just insanely good at the start of titles, even as a player, and I'm sure that he has the same, you know, potential benefits as a coach in that sense as well. So I think Karma's really looking forward to that possibility. He's made that point be known, and last night on stream, he was like, yeah, like, there's nothing to this. I'm still going to be coaching next year. And he actually mentioned this in the chat last night. Who is Intel OpTic on Twitter? Don't believe everything on the internet. The guy's actually just tweeting complete BS. So, yeah, Karma pretty much confirming that his plan is to stay around. And it seems like the players want him to stay around. They clearly value Karma's insight and benefit massively. I do remember even a clip that, I think it was Gunless, back in the World War II days, there was some interview that went down and he said, well, I don't really value coaches particularly highly because they're not playing this game, they're not playing this game on a particularly high level, so why would I be interested in their opinion? But he was like, if it's Karma, then you'd listen to his opinion, right? And I think he mentioned Karma specifically as like, well, I don't really care if some old washed up pro's gonna try and tell me how to play the game, but if it's Dave McCarma-Barlow the 3 times, then you listen to what he says, right? And I think that OpTic have, and I was saying this a few months ago before Karma was the coach, it's like, when OpTic have got a guy like Karma in and around the organization, you've got to try and use that to your advantage in some respects. The guy's won it all. He's been through a lot of the potential team turmoil that teams will go through, and from the start of the year as their head coach, I think that's a very valuable idea. So that is probably going to be happening. Karma says it's going to be the case, and he's going to be head coaching from the start of next season. There's other players as well that are interested in doing so. I know that Slack tweeted this out a couple of days ago now. I wonder if I'll get a coaching offer this year or a few other new faces that haven't had chances. I feel like orgs recycle the same people and never try anything new. Blows my mind that I won 7 championships, won in 5 different titles, didn't even get a sniff of an offer or conversation truly don't understand it these days. Zero's like, politics, this. So pretty interesting from the fact, obviously getting frustrated that after, trying to coach and become something like that for a team, he hasn't really had the offers or the conversations there in play, which, okay, it's a fair point, but at the end of the day, some organizations are going to say, well, what's your resume, right? Are you actually, are you going to be a good coach? And some orgs don't know. Because to be honest, a few years ago, when players first started retiring and becoming coaches, back then, anyone could get a coaching job because, if you were a former pro, you'd get the job. Whereas nowadays, it's like, well, have you coached in challenges? Have you done this with the team, done that with the team? And maybe that's what organizations are more looking to see. And those that actually have got some experience are going to be more in the conversation, right? But that's Slack's POV. But the other point as well is a guy like Clayster, because if Clay decided to retire, he probably would just walk into a coaching spot. I think there's no doubt about that. But he doesn't want to, and that's definitely the top of his list. And he actually mentioned in this interesting article here with GG Recon that as it stands, he feels crisper and more snappy now than he did 5 years ago. He says people are talking about, age being a myth in esports. Maybe your fingers won't quite shoot as straight as they used to when you grew up, but what goes inside the head only gets better and better over time. Because the movements are so small on the controller, I generally don't feel a difference. I don't feel slower as if I can't shoot straight or anything. If anything, I feel crisper and more snappy now than I did 5 years ago. And it's really what goes in your head, as you said, builds and builds, experience, experience, experience. He reckons you might need to even cut out 8 years of knowledge because the last 2 years have been so different, but nonetheless, he thinks he's honestly in one of the best spots he's been in as a player, and hopefully that means that if he gets a good opportunity, he's going to stay around next year. I wonder who he's going to team with, though, just because this, I'm not going to run through all the stats here, but the Unspoken Rizzler comes out with an analysis of certain players who had the biggest discrepancy, positive and negative, from online to LAN, and I will note that one of the standouts here, it's got to be said, is on Toronto. Standy had a 1.11 online to a 9.9 on LAN, so, 0.99 on LAN, right? Not 99 rated overall, so that was a big discrepancy. And then when Standy joined Vegas, he went from a 1.12 online to a 0.89 on LAN. So in both teams that Standy was on, he was definitely much better online, right? So I do wonder whether that's a conversation that Clayster thinks about going into next year, because they did have some decent results, but mostly online, surprisingly, for Vegas, because before Standy joined, they were actually better on LAN, it felt like. So definitely some thinking for Clayster to do in terms of who's he going to play with next season, whether he gets an offer from a team like Boston, whether he has to run it back on Vegas with potentially a couple of the same guys and make some further changes, who knows. There was also this overall card from Hicksy, which doesn't look particularly impressive. I know that if Hicksy there was some additional rating here for impact kills when it matters, Hicksy's number would be quite a lot more than this, and in fairness, right, as he says, people who don't understand football, they analyse his stats, so pretty funny to be fair. But yeah, we'll see what happens to Hicksy next year, but if Toronto are going in the direction we think they might, then he's probably still going to be around. But very much enjoyed to hear your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.